everybody. This is Ida from Celestial You, and I'm here again with Nelly.
Thanks for having me back, Ida, and thanks everyone for tuning in, being on this vibration, this frequency, and listening to us talk about things that are about healing, about light, about esoteric matters that you might be interested in, because me and Ida are just on our own journeys here, learning and gathering information to be informed and maybe have some revelations along the way. So we're here to uplift you and help you in your own process. Maybe you can relate to us.
And I wanted to say something too to our viewers, that make sure you hit the like and subscribe button, because when you do that, you send an energetic signal to us and we can better tune into our audience and know, kind of, even if you don't write a comment, but we'll just kind of know energetically how to best respond to you and how to present information that might be of relevance to you.
If anyone is curious about, what we talked about last time, we, did a light meditation together, kind of like using the light to kind of clear our energy. And, you can click on it. Maybe Ida will, use her awesome editing skills as she always does. And so, I just kind of wanted to touch on that a little bit more, because when we're clearing our own energy, we are just working on ourselves. And in that meditation, we kind of bring the light down through us and down to earth, who will accept, the things that don't belong to us and clear it, help us clear it. And perhaps you're going to grow your light out and, out to 3 or 6 or 12-foot diameter, whatever, you see, whatever is relevant for you, but you're not sending it anywhere. You're not then sending it out to a person. You're not sending it out to, the world or, anything like that. You're just growing your own light. And I think that's kind of an important point to make because of the ethics involved in healing. And so, it's kind of like, Ida, like for instance, I assume you're not going to read somebody's chart without their permission, right? Yeah.
Right. It's a little interesting because of astrology. We have access to a lot of people's charts that are public figures. Mm-hmm. Those we use for research, but there are ethics surrounding like what you will or won't talk about, and especially if like someone's my client in particular. I don't share their information with other clients without getting their consent. Or even if I present a chart here about someone, I'll ask if it's okay to share their chart information, and I may not share their name with it. So there's all kinds of ethics surrounding that.
When there's integrity in an energetic practice, I think that it makes it stronger. And I also think it protects you. From what I've seen, it protects you against, any kind of recoil from someone rejecting what it is that you have to offer, for instance. And kind of like your own mental state and just being satisfied in enhancing yourself, having self-worth enough to know that you are enough, that your own energetic healing is enough, mm-hmm. and that, you don't necessarily have to heal everyone else around you first before you take care of yourself to be worthy to be a part of the society or to be.
I'm just smiling because like that's a Taurian lesson. That's like for particularly self-worth issues are something that Tauruses are working on in this lifetime, and we do tend to heal people gravitate to us for healing, and well, I guess we're reminding ourselves.
Yeah, both. So. But yeah, it's a cool thing to think about that, like you can just wake up and, for instance, you your energy when you wake up, it sets the tone for your day. So how are you going to start it? And that tone for the day, it carries forward to everyone else that you meet. It's like that commercial. I don't know if you remember, where like someone does a kind act and then the next person does a kind act. I mean, this stuff is real. I mean, people really do this stuff where like you're in a line at Starbucks and the person in front of you like bought a drink for you and you're like, oh wow, I'll do it for the next person. And sometimes it really does gravitate around and gets, passed forward multiple times over. And so that's just kind of, a little brief explanation about ethics, and not sending out your energy healing anywhere, unless if you're asked, of course. That's a
What do
little
you
bit
think
different.
about the meditations that like send healing to the world, like in general? Like, what do you think about that?
Like which ones? Like prayers?
Yeah, like, they have these, sometimes they have like collective where there might be kind of an issue going on in a particular part of the world or whatever, and people get together and they meditate and they send their love to that area. What do you think about that?
I think there's kind of, a fine line. So I'm just going to provide a story because I don't do weather healing, but let me give an example.
Okay.
So, Michael Harner is a shaman who founded the Foundation for Shamanic Studies. He was a scholar, anthropologist, and PhD, and gathered a lot of information about shamanic practices around the world, and had a direct revelation when he was studying shamanism and with shamans, and became a very, very powerful healer. He founded the school that I study under. So he one time told a story where he did a healing because it was having a drought somewhere, and asked for rain to come. Sound pretty A to B, right? Drought, rain. And the weather that changed, it changed so much. There was so much rain that it then caused flooding, and then a bunch of things were destroyed.
Okay.
And it's kind of the thing where, like, sure, maybe you can do a little bit of healing, but do you really know what needs to be healed? Is it your ego that's asking for it? Or did you ask the heavens? Did you ask the earth? Did you ask the trees? Did you ask your community? Did you ask the land? There's a lot of different things that need consent. And in the shamanic worldview, everything has a spirit. So for instance, if I was going to heal, land, or if someone was going to go out and heal land, then you would ask the spirits of the land, you would ask the landowners, not just the tenants, not just the people living there. Maybe there's some spirits that are there that don't want it, or there's something else going on. Because there are a lot of networks that we might not understand, a lot of spiritual connections that we might not understand, just like how trees are all interconnected. And if you chop one down, then you might affect the entire ecosystem. So,
yeah. Would it be wise, maybe, like if people do see an area where people are struggling, to preface their prayers with to send love or healing or whatever to that area, but just maybe in the highest good, rather than like them doing it, specifically doing like an act like creating rain? It seems like a safer way of operating.
I don't know. I mean, maybe if it wants to, there's a lot of different ways that I've seen people kind of like be careful around, getting consent, if it would be good for them, like that kind of thing. But, really, like I'm kind of talking about the manipulation of energy, manipulation of someone else's energy by sending out light or sending out healing in a certain way. Or, I think maybe prayers can fall into that in a way, like maybe you're going to pray for someone's recovery and you didn't get their permission to pray for them first. Maybe they didn't want that. I don't know. But still, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like that happened to me once, actually.
Did you pray for someone and it was not a
No,
good
it was the opposite.
They prayed for you.
Someone was just like praying for something for me, but it wasn't in my faith. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it was kind of like a mean prayer. Do you know what I mean?
Oh no,
Like
that's
people are like
I
well
think that might
intentioned.
be well, let's talk about that because I feel like your intentions are the most important thing when you pray, right? Like I've had situations where I didn't have a good relationship with a person at that time. But I wanted to send love to that person and I, didn't feel comfortable doing that in the third dimension anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because I needed to set boundaries with them because their behavior was bad in
Mm-hmm.
the third dimension. But again, I really care about that person. So I'm not going to call them up and be like, I'm going to pray for you. Like, that's not what we're doing. That sounds
Yeah.
like an insult. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, when it comes from a good place of like, I love this person, we may not get along right now, but I'm praying for them that they find happiness, that they figure out what's going on with themselves. Like, but I think if you do that from a place and an intention of like positivity and like really genuinely from your heart, I don't know, like I feel like that's okay. But if you do something where you go and you like pray for someone out of like spite or like in some malice, that's harmful. That's like the opposite of a prayer, really. That's not a good practice,
I
you
mean,
know?
there's a few things there, like
Yeah.
you're kind of touching on. One is you can just have gratitude for somebody.
Yeah.
And, that's not sending your energy anywhere. You're just
Okay.
expressing gratitude. Thank you to the sun for I don't know, rising today, right?
Right.
To that person, for all the lessons I learned, and then there's a difference, right? A subtle difference between gratitude versus like praying for them.
Okay, so let's just be real. Right now is a hard time for humanity. Many relationships are being strained, just in general, right? People are having to figure out like who they can or can't tolerate within their energetic circle. They're having to practice energetic hygiene, like the light meditation that you provided last time was amazing. By the way, folks, I'm going to put it out separately so that you can just go click on it and do your light meditation with Nelly. But sometimes, this is just how I feel, sometimes people don't respect your third dimensional physical boundaries, physical or emotional boundaries right now. But you may love them and you may have in your heart a love for their soul, like the true expression of who they are, rather than the expression of their anger, their limitations, their issues, their lower range of emotions, their need to control others, all these sort of things that make life difficult with other people, right? So one of the practices that I've been doing is I have been sending love to people who I have decided to limit my interaction with in the physical. But I find it's more comfortable for me to still express my love to them from a soul to soul level rather than I don't love your actions right now, but I do love you. I love the soul of who you are. And so I can kind of separate that, but it has nothing to do with like, I would, like I'm not putting a condition on it. It's just literally just like, wishing them healing, wishing them well, that kind of thing. And I think to me, or at least my ethical construct is that if you are doing something from your heart center and that you're doing it from a place of love, and you're not trying to control the other person or put limitations on them, but you're simply deciding to let go of any kind of arguments you're having with them and just be like, you know what? I love you anyway. Like, I don't know. There's like such a power to that, because it frees you of the limitations of our conflicts, of our issues that we have with people in the physical. And it's very different than praying for someone, but with the intent to like manipulate them or to be nasty or to like, I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, what you're talking about in the sense I'm getting is forgiveness, right?
Right.
When you're letting go of some action or thing.
Yes.
And you're replacing that with, a loving thought. You're just letting go of that energetic charge that you have with somebody when you have any kind of like ill intent or malice or hurt or pain, or, you're just thinking over and over again about an incident that might have happened. These things take up a lot of energy. And as I always say in my day-to-day life, and when I tell people I can only give so many fucks in the world, there's only so many thoughts that you can have in a single day. You can only give so many fucks. So like if I'm filling up my thoughts with shit that happened yesterday, some fucked up thing that happened yesterday, what does that do for me? It just clutters up, my ability to think.
Your mental real estate, your emotional. Yeah.
And so, would I rather give fucks about that or the goals that I really have in my life?
Yeah. No, I think that's important. Yeah. Wait, that's a really good point, what you just said, because I think this is something that we're having to actively do right now. I don't know why this is like such a theme, but it really is. You get into these like little conflicts where people will do or say things that are not in your best interest. And you have to figure out a way to turn your mind actively away from concentrating on the problem and focusing back on you and your own soul mission. And by doing that, you minimize that problem and it kind of dissolves out of your emotional sphere. So then you can redirect yourself. This redirection of thought is so important. And I feel like people need more than ever to curate their thoughts, like how you just explained.
Yeah, I mean, and when you're relaxed and you're not thinking about things that upset you, you're able to have those revelations, right? And have that energy to go after your life dreams, as corny as that might sound. I mean, how many people do we know? I know that are really like going after it. I don't know.
No, well, it's like, it's becoming more and more clear to me because I feel that our energetic sensitivity is, at least for me and many people I know, has increased. And so there seems to be more than ever this discerning of like, oh, wow, like that person might not be in the same thought process or realm or vibration that I'm used to. And maybe that doesn't feel good anymore. Like there's this process of weeding out sort of those more negative influences or protecting yourself from those negative influences when you're around them. Because I feel like, at least for me, I don't know how you feel about this. Actually, I'd be interested to know how, or if it's affecting you in the same way, but I feel so much more sensitive to energies these days versus like years and years past. Like I didn't feel as uncomfortable. Now it feels like if there's a misalignment or there's a vibrational difference that is tangible, it's literally like it's, like it feels really bad. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that way, or how are things affecting you at all?
like, are you asking if there's been a shift in energy or, I mean, there's like multifaceted, right? Like you have like people being connected more just through emails and whatever, social media.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, like you can still feel somebody's energy, even though it's behind a screen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I kind of want to talk about that next, but.
So, I mean, that has been going on for quite some time. But I mean, also, there's just, you hear a lot, like, I think you're talking about like collective consciousness. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
I feel like
Collective doing.
there is a feeling that the collective is struggling with lower energies, and not everybody and not all the time. Obviously, there are some people who are doing remarkably well in like clearing their energy and having spiritual hygiene and like curating their thoughts and these kinds of activities that, we'll probably talk more about on this channel. But there definitely is this collective consciousness issue. And it really, to me, was a huge deal when I saw the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, because it really reflected this energy of addiction and unrequited desire, which on the scale of consciousness, maybe I'll introduce that someday for folks to kind of visualize. It's a lower energy. It's 125 on the scale of 1,000. And basically it represents this energy of lack. Like, this is what I want, and here's where I'm at. And it's impossible within the collective to not feel that that's going on. If you are an empath or you are in tuned with your own emotions, that feeling in those around you, or even like you said, in like social media type settings as well, but like it affects you. Like everything you watch affects you. Like the news is going to be a low vibration because they're kind of like on the fear vibration, which is at 100 out of 1,000. So that's pretty low. The scale goes to 1,000. So if you're at 100, you're not, you should think about curating that which you are exposed to is a form of energetic hygiene again, just like doing the light meditations. But I don't know if I answered your question or I just meandered. So
no, I don't know. I think we're just chatting. It's cool. I mean, again, that kind of goes to what are you thinking about every day? Just as you want to have forgiveness from the events of yesterday, what are you curating your mind with every day? If you're watching the news or you're interacting with people who don't support you, no matter how much you feel like you have to do that because they're your like mom or something. I don't know. What are you watching for TV? Like what kind of shows are you watching? Are you relaxed and happy when you're done, or are you being filled with dramatic stories and that kind of thing?
Yeah, like how does it make you feel?
And again, there's only so many thoughts that you're going to have every single day. So what are you filling yourself up with? I think that from what I've seen, people who are very careful, very, very careful about what it is that they do, when they have like a very, very clear idea of what they're going to do with their day, they accomplish a lot. And not to like say that these are the greatest people on earth, but like, for instance, I don't really think people like Elon Musk really give a fuck about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, like to the point, like this man is not sitting around and, watching the trial in its entirety. And, like, I don't know, I feel like he's trying to solve energy crises or at least making money off of it. You know what I mean?
Elon Musk is definitely at a level of intellect, not at the level unrequited desire. So it helps when your vibration is higher that you don't entertain it. But to some extent, I feel like when we see a lot of the collective going through a certain vibration, it's like an active process of, you know, like curating and blocking that off in certain ways that it might come through in your own life, or at least just like paying attention to how the different interactions feel to you. I actually thought that the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial, although it was long and arduous and things like that, and it was dramatic, but I felt that at the end it was a positive, like an interesting outcome, that it seemed to be that in a way justice prevailed, at least to my perception. But and I thought it was interesting because in many ways, like many of the events we see unfolding, people don't feel they have any like control. And sometimes it's like, you know, this happens, pandemic, and then war, and then like, it's like worse after worse after worse. And so it's interesting because seeing that trial, like the outcome of that trial seemed to be at least pretty consistent with, it seemed justified, it seemed just. And so was like kind of in a ways like it felt like a win for humanity, because, you know, here was this person who had gone through, you know, an abusive relationship, and in some ways both were abusive, but and it was a man who was speaking out against physical and emotional violence from a woman, which is very different than the normal narrative that we had with the Me Too movement before that. So it was really interesting to watch this flip over and say, what, you know, sometimes this can happen. And the way that that kind of went out, and it was really heartening actually to watch the fans and so much support for Johnny as he like went through this. And if you watch his the first day of his trial versus the last day of trial, you can actually see his like confidence grow, which was really interesting. And to me, it just felt like, you know, maybe the truth will prevail. Maybe that is something, maybe we have hope. It was hopeful to me. And so anyway, that's not like what we're talking about in general. I just felt that watching others go through this vibration of addiction or lack, right, is a theme that I've seen play out in a lot of my clients and my friends and family lately, that there was just like this one thing that they wanted, and it was like just out of their reach, so to speak, in the last, 6 months or so. And I saw that be the case, and I guess wanted to sort of talk about, in many ways, skills and means to pull yourself out of situations like that, and that mentality, and to curate your thoughts and put yourself in a different mind frame. Really, each of us has a soul mission that we should be looking internally for rather than externally. And so it's just like this process of seeing, yes, we do see these things happening around us, but how do we shift our energy up from there, and in other words, focus on what we can control and what we can best do for the world, rather than maybe what we see with our eyes sometimes happening in the world, which is not as encouraging,
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about media and, a mass publicizing media attention of like this famous couple that, it kind of sucks, to be honest.
Yeah. It was
to have your shit like be aired out like that, but regardless, you know, like I tend to find that, for instance, the shamans that I've seen and I know, they're really calm people. They're always smiling. There's this monk that, you know, who was tortured for a really long time, came out of it, and he says, you know, and this is a story that was told to me. He says, "Oh, I really learned a lot about how to keep my, essentially how to keep my vibration right." And there's just so many stories like that, even in the Bible, where, you know, people go through so much hardship, and yet they keep their faith. And I think that's just kind of like what we're touching on here, is how you're going to keep your faith in yourself, essentially, as well, that you can do it, that you are, whatever faith you have, you know, you're a child of the Great Spirit, you're a child of God, or you have, you know, a soul purpose. But for those of us out there who are searching, you know, I do think that this is like one of the things that we can do, is just keep our path, you know, towards the things that we would really love to do. Figure out what that is as soon as possible. If you don't, like, talk to Ida or whatever, like have like a career or whatever you want to do, like a relationship reading or something. And if you're lacking motivation, maybe
like right now the life mission readings are like super on point for people, because the relationships we've seen lately are strained, you know? And so it's like, how do you have a good relationship with someone else? It's like, if you have a good relationship with yourself, right?
Yeah, and it's hard because we're not taught how to do that.
Right. But yeah, the life mission readings are super important right now, because sometimes when you, like, this energy of desire or unrequited desire or lack is all about focusing on the external for validation. So, for example, if you come to my reading and we're talking about your life purpose, it takes your focus off of this and brings it back. And when you bring it back, you actually step right back into your power.
So, Ida, have you ever had a situation where someone wasn't happy about your report of their life?
Your life mission? I've had people, I've never had someone be unhappy about the life mission. It's pretty like, it's, most people already know what it is. They just enjoy the telling of it and the confirmation of it, right? So that's not it. I've had people come in who are just not happy. And then when they come in and they're not happy, then whatever you say is probably going to be bad, you know? But for the most part, say for now, like, because there's been so much focus on external validation for some people, and I've seen a lot of themes of people being like, but I just need this one thing in my life and then I'll be happy. And it's like, well, that's a trick, actually, you know? So now is actually a good time to go, okay, let me just refocus on my own self and my own goals. And when you minimize this idea that the external validation is what's necessary, then you come upon your own peace and love vibration within what your mission is. And so that's quite helpful.
Yeah, I feel like just knowing your story, that's a lot that you've had to do in your own life, right?
Yeah.
Continue on with this path, because as we all know, Ida is a very accomplished person in her field of pharmacy.
I am. It's the bewilderment of my parents why I don't want to continue to just do pharmacy. I still practice pharmacy, but yeah, it's been like that. And it's been just trying to figure out. And one of the things that I had learned is that we are healthiest if we we are pursuing our path and making steps towards that direction. And so sometimes I feel like right now there's a lot of interference, or there's a lot of like, you know, kind of, I believe this, but you believe that. It's like, that's fine. Like, you know, like, that's fine for you, you know, like, or events that are happening that are kind of divisive, or philosophies or politics or whatever that's occurring that's divisive. And it makes people feel like they don't have control over their lives because they can't have that, that group mentality, or like assign themselves to like, we're all good and we all believe this thing. But it's becoming harder to do that, because I think what we're undergoing is a shift where people are becoming more individualistic and not necessarily buying into these tribalistic beliefs. 100%. Like, they may believe like certain things, but now they're like, well, I don't really believe this, or I don't really believe that. This sort of like seem to be this, this evolution within the Aquarian age that we're in, of becoming more free of thought, from an individualistic in our thought patterns, while wanting harmony amongst groups. So it's really interesting kind of to see that play out. And I think we're kind of seeing the beginning of that, because we're seeing people kind of originally thinking that they belong to a certain group, and now kind of going, well, I don't know. I don't think this really fits me very well. And really, what is there to do but then to go back into yourself and go, what do I want for myself, and what do I really believe? So I think it's interesting, because I do believe we're going through a shift of that nature as well in society.
Cool. Well, thanks, Ida, for all your thoughts about this. We kind of shifted a lot from talking about consent to now.
Yeah, we just
clear the world, you know, no big deal.
That's fine. Yeah, but no, actually, to go back to that. So you had told me before that there was, you know, you'd heard of like practitioners, or health, or not health practitioners, spiritual practitioners, energetic healers, whatever, this realm, you know, healing others without consent, or without, like you said, first healing themselves first. And then we, you know, of course, the thought of what happens when your cup is not full, and then you go and try to heal someone else. So like, can you talk a little bit more about that? Because that's interesting.
Sure. So someone asked me recently, like she started delving into healing other people.
Mm-hmm.
And she asked me why she felt so depleted after that.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, there's a few possibilities, maybe. I don't, you know, I didn't like super look into it, but, you know, like one of the things is that you're like, what are you trying to give to somebody? Is it your own energy? Because we only, like, again, you only have so many fucks to give, right? So you're like giving parts of yourself away. And it's different from a shamanic practitioner. We don't work by giving parts of us away. We work, you know, through spirit.
Yeah.
You know, you see the stereotype all the time of like moms, for instance, doing stuff for everyone else and taking care of themselves last, you know?
Yeah.
Very common theme, I think. And then at some point you're going to be run down and tired, and, you know, it's the whole self-care thing, of course, but.
Have you ever done that, like, as a Taurus?
As a person? Yeah, I've done that as a person, like,
yeah,
in my like normal working life, like, wanting to like take care of my job, for instance, the clients that I have. And I don't mean shamanic clients. I mean, like, in the past with my legal clients and things like that, like giving more to my job than to instance following my life path. And for whatever reason, I decided to like listen to my parents and follow like this legal career path.
That sounds familiar.
Um, and the first day of law school, I really hated it. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing here? I don't belong here. What the fuck? Well, I'm already here, and then you go through, a lot of this, what I call denial.
Did you ever have this feeling like, because when I was in pharmacy school, it's very similar. And I kept saying to myself, but I'm not a pharmacist.
No,
I just kept like, I couldn't identify with it very well.
Yeah, like when,
like in the way that it was taught. Look, I think that, law itself is not the problem. And, pharmacy itself, like medicines are not the problem. It's just.
No, actually, I think it's actually a very honorable and noble profession, or it can be. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there are a lot of narcissists out there, but maybe an inordinate amount in the legal field, checks that winning that, person that wants to win. But there's so many wonderful, decent lawyers out there doing.
And if anyone has actually, I know we keep going to this, and
I mean, it just depends on the lawyer and the person, right? Yeah. Like there's so many wonderful lawyers who advocate for people who can't afford it.
Right.
Who advocate for causes that, for against torture, for instance, against incarceration, against, child abuse, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's great for them. And I wanted to be one of those people. Coming out of law school, I, tried many different paths, thinking, why don't I fit in? And why can't I just be happy? Because believe it or not, lawyers are well respected in our society most of the time. And it's kind of nice, just like going out and about, and you're like, oh, I'm a lawyer, and people are like, oh wow, like fucking wonderful.
Yeah, fucking wonderful.
Oh wow, you must be rich and so fucking happy. And I'm like, living life, right? But
and I feel like you're right. Like there's a lot of pharmacists out there who just want to help patients, and who are, many of them got into pharmacy for the right reasons, and they're not necessarily having that experience right now. Mm-hmm. Many of them are not having that experience of what they went into pharmacy for. Mm-hmm. However, it seems to me it's less like the profession and more the systems that we're working with right now that have.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of things. It's like that external validation, right? Like you get a lot of it when you're, for instance, you're a pharmacist, and I'm sure in certain social circles, people are like, wow, that's fucking amazing. Like,
yeah. Well, it's funny because, I went to a dinner party at my dad's house, and he was like, this is my daughter, the pharmacist. And I'm like, oh, it's interesting. Mm-hmm. That's one way of explaining who I am. It's like one piece.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of places.
It's esteemed, or he's the doctor, I'm the pharmacist, so it's okay, like she's all right. She's
well, so many cultures like introduce you by your profession and or who you're related to. So there you go.
Yeah. So in that case where I feel like we keep going, we need to go back to that subject of the healer who's I keep thinking glass was empty and trying to like heal other people. So I've definitely done it before. And no, go ahead. What were you thinking?
Oh no, I was just thinking, there's a difference like I'm sure like before, like you've studied a lot of different things, right? And I'm guessing that before you found the thing that you really loved, which is astrology, that's when, like, for instance, the clients started coming to you. That's when things started to click for you. That's when you're in the love vibration of doing something that you really, really, truly love. And so stuff just happens for you. I know we met, like, because of it. You have so much more support around you now, perhaps. I'm just guessing that that's the case. And I think that's the case for any healer, because I do consider you a healer as well. That, like, once you are in the right place, right frame of mind, the right vibration, and your cup is full now, because you're not just searching to heal people to be in denial about your own life. You're not just looking to heal people like with your own energy, thinking that you can impart yourself, your own influence onto somebody else, you know?
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is there's like ways you can heal people from a good energetic standpoint, and there's ways that you're maybe not. And from what I hear is, okay, if you're healing someone in order to control them, probably not a good idea, just in general. And if you're healing someone because them being healed is some external validation that you need in a very codependent fashion, like I need to heal you in order to feel good about myself, also probably not a strong place to be as a healer. Like, so what would you say, like, drawing from your shamanic traditions, how do shamans heal people, without going to like the specifics, but in generalities, like from an energetic standpoint? Is there like a level of detachment? Like where does the energy come from? Like in general, like not, I don't want to go into like super detail, but basically you're not drawing from your own energy. So where's it coming from, and why doesn't it deplete you when you do your work?
How do I answer this? Like, so I don't want to speak for like all shamans, you know, I can only speak to like from what I've learned, my own experience. Yeah. My own experience is that shamans work with spirits. We work with spirits to heal other people. There are lots of different types of spirits out there, and without going into super big detail about it, there are compassionate spirits or guardians, if you will, or, you know, I don't know what all the names are, but spirits will suffice for this conversation, but that just want to help. They're here to help, they're here to heal, just as you would call upon a guardian angel or archangel or something like that. I think it's really popular in this country to do that.
Yeah.
And so through spirit, you know, I don't use my own energy. I ask spirit to help me and be a conduit of energy. I think this is also the case with Reiki as well, which is also a very popular modality. You call upon, you know, Reiki means universal energy. Yeah. So you are a conduit for the light, if you will, to move through you and go to somebody else. It's kind of the same concept.
Well, I've seen you work. And so I can kind of see that you're in a headspace, you're doing the work, you're focused, but you're not taking it on yourself. You're kind of like processing it, it seems, from the outside in.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So shamanic work, in a lot of ways is, you know, like a lot of other modalities, it's a transmutation of energy. You're taking, for instance, if you're doing an extraction, you're taking something out of somebody and filling them up with replacing that energy with something else. So you're taking out the thing that doesn't belong to them, putting it in a place where it can't do harm. But then, you know, at the same time, like, you're essentially changing that person, right? like their energetic state by extracting anything. And it's just like the light meditation we did. You know, you're kind of like using the light to extract anything out of yourself that doesn't belong to you. It's kind of the same thing, transmutation. And only, I think that when working with spirit, for instance, you're not taking it on yourself because you're working through them. So I'm not absorbing it. And I think that's something, a principle that maybe some people like that I've seen in energetic healing or new age that people are lacking is sometimes they just take it on themselves.
Right.
Sometimes inadvertently. Or like you're a parent and you don't want your child to suffer. So you take on their suffering yourself. You know, that seems to happen a lot. And I mean, there's a lot of different ways how that could manifest. But like, as you were saying, I think before that you were, have felt other people's like physical pain before. I think that's something that can happen, for instance, when you're not careful and you're not full, your cup isn't full. So
yeah, I feel like that does. When it's really weird because I feel like it happens more if you're not in a good place. Like if you're in a good place and you're like, you're strong, you know, you've got a lot of light energy flowing, you're in your creativity, you're in your love, you're just full, your cup is full. So, and oddly enough, even if you do interact with someone, it's less likely to drain you because you're not looking for validation from the person or whatever in this exchange. So it does seem pertinent when you do energy work to kind of like, to kind of keep your own energy. And like you said, either use, light energy or work with archangels or whatever you're doing, to flow that energy out because, your own energy is it's precious and you don't want to like, and you're even your own frequency or your own vibration is precious. Especially now, I feel, you know, so this is kind of in astrology. I want to say it's a little different because when you do astrology, you have to at least be using your level of intellect. So you're already kind of like there. And intellect seems to me protective. Like when you're doing your job and you're just focusing on the intelligence of gathering this information, really reading the energies as well from the chart, but you're doing it in a very intellectual way, right? And it seems like when you're going through this process of channeling this information intellectually, it gives you a sort of detachment that is naturally kind of like built in because of how intelligent this design is, right? In order to read it, you have to focus. You are focusing, you're getting their energy, but you're in a way trying to focus on the intellectual aspect of it rather than the emotional feeling of it. But there are people who get very emotional when you're reading for them. And oh man, I know how that is because I've had people come in and I like start crying. But when the astrologer is doing the reading, you don't go into their emotions. You're there to accurately read the chart. So you're focused on this mission, like very much kind of like how you go into shaman mode and you're just like, I have to do this, that, I have to do this step, you know, step by step, right? And so once you get into that mental process, mental, emotional, spiritual process that you're in, it kind of like creates a bubble around you in the best sense that you're not like actually absorbing what it is that the energies are that are revealed.
Yeah. And yeah, it's just like as you say, like when you're talking, they call that like holding space for people, right?
Yeah. Right.
That's what it sounds like. Like you're just here to like be there for somebody.
Yeah.
It's
No.
okay. It's a safe space, you know.
Yeah, lately I've been thinking about, like, with clients or friends and family, this idea of, and I've always felt this way, that I don't want them to be dependent on me for their healing, right?
No, I don't know. Okay.
I'll heal them, right? But I want them to, in the vein of, like, I want them to learn
You
from
mean you
me
don't want them to call you every day to
to get another reading.
ask you like where the sun is and their
Well, that would be an addiction for frequency, so I don't want that. But you know what I mean, because, like, to be that healer who is looking for validation, it doesn't feel good. It feels codependent. So instead of, like, needing to heal this person so that they're better, it's more of, like, this idea, at least when I try to do my astrology, that I'm teaching them. So then they learn, then they can go and take that. And they may need to come back for other sessions, but it's not for that purpose of continually, like, making them beholden to me or something, like, in a weird codependent fashion. I don't like that at all.
You know, but there's a lot of stuff out there. I just think it's cool when, you know, you meet someone that you jive with and, you know, it's like a happy process to like learn. For instance, when, you know, we did our session together, like, oh, cool, you know, like that's my career path and whatever. It's just like a really cool experience.
Yeah. Hi, guys. Nelly's computer just shut off. So, but we're pretty much done with this episode of the podcast. So thanks for joining us. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe, so that we can tune into your energy and curate some of the content towards what you might be looking for. Also, if you want to put in a comment, go ahead and do that. Or you can always reach me at ida@thecelestialu.com, and you can request us to cover certain topics. So have a really good week, and thank you for watching, and take care. Bye.